Have you ever sat down with your tarot deck, pulled a card, and just felt nothing? Like the cards were just pieces of cardboard with pretty pictures on them and absolutely nothing was coming through? Or maybe the opposite. You pulled one card and it hit so hard you had to put the deck down for a second. Both of those experiences are real. Both of them make sense. And today we're going to talk about exactly why that happens. How to build a genuine connection with your tarot deck, and something that almost nobody talks about. Why timing matters more than most people realize, and how to know when tarot is actually going to work for you right now, and when it isn't. This is one of those topics that can completely change how you use your cards. So let's get into it. First, let's clear something up. When people talk about connecting with a tarot deck, it can sound a little vague or even a little mystical. Like you're supposed to feel lightning bolts or hear the cards whispering to you. That's not really what it is. Connection with a tarot deck is much simpler and much more practical than that. It's familiarity, it's comfort, it's the feeling of picking up that specific deck and already knowing somewhere in your body that something is going to come through. Think about it like a pen. You probably have a favorite pen, one that just feels right in your hand, that flows the way you need it to. You could write with any pen, but that one makes you write better. That's what a connected tarot deck is. And just like with a pen, that feeling doesn't just appear on day one. It builds over time, through use, through repetition, through showing up. So if you're new and you don't feel it yet, that is completely normal. The connection comes with the practice, not before it. So how do you actually build that connection? Because there are specific things that genuinely work, and I want to walk you through them. The first one is the simplest and the most powerful. Hold your deck every day, even when you're not reading. Just shuffle it while you watch TV, while you drink your morning coffee, while you're thinking about something. Get the cards used to your hands. Get your hands used to the cards. This sounds almost too simple, but it makes a real difference. The second thing is what some readers call the interview spread. When you get a new deck, instead of jumping straight into readings, do a little introduction. Ask the deck, what is your personality? What are you here to help me with? What do you find difficult to talk about? Pull 3 or 4 cards and just sit with them. You're not reading your life, you're meeting the deck. And that changes the dynamic completely. The third thing is keeping a dedicated space for your deck. It doesn't need to be elaborate. A specific cloth, a drawer, a little corner of your desk. When the deck lives somewhere intentional, you relate to it differently. It becomes a tool you treat with care rather than something you dig out from under your laptop. And the fourth, journal after every reading, even just a few words. What you asked, what came up, what you felt. Over time, this becomes a record of your relationship with the deck. You'll start to see its patterns, the way it communicates with you specifically. That is real connection. Okay, so you've been doing the work. How do you know when it's actually clicked? There are a few signs that are pretty reliable. The first one is that readings start to feel less like translating a foreign language and more like having a conversation. You flip a card and something lands. Maybe not a dramatic revelation, but a quiet recognition. Like, yes, that makes sense for where I am right now. The second sign is that the deck starts to surprise you in ways that feel meaningful, not random, meaningful. A card you've never paid much attention to suddenly shows up 3 times in a week, and each time it feels like it's pointing at something real. That's the connection working. Third sign is almost physical. Some people feel a slight warmth or a sense of settling when they're using a deck they're genuinely connected to. Others just feel calm. It's subtle, but it's consistent. And you'll know the absence of it too. Sometimes the connection just isn't there. Maybe it's a new deck that hasn't warmed up yet. Maybe it's a deck that was a gift and you love it visually, but it doesn't speak your language. Maybe you had a connection once and something interrupted it. And that's okay. Not every deck is your deck. Some readers have 5 or 6 decks and genuinely use them all for different things. Some readers have one deck they've used for 15 years and never needed another. Both are completely valid. The question is just, is this particular deck speaking to you or not? Now here's something that confuses so many beginners, and honestly nobody explains it properly. Sometimes you sit down to read and the cards just seem flat. dry, disconnected. You pull card after card and nothing resonates, and you start wondering, am I doing something wrong? Did I lose my ability? Is the deck broken somehow? Almost always the answer is much simpler. The cards aren't the problem, the timing is. Tarot is not a tool you can use with the same effectiveness every single day in every single state of mind. It works best when you are present, when you're genuinely open to what might come up, and when you're asking a question that actually matters to you right now. When those conditions aren't met, the reading goes flat. And the most common reason? You're too close to the question, or you already know the answer, and you're just hoping the cards will say something different. And the reason for that brings me to something that I think is the most underestimated thing in all of tarot. Your emotional state when you sit down to read is not separate from the reading. It is part of the reading. It shapes everything. How you shuffle, which cards catch your eye, how you interpret what you see. When you're calm and grounded, you read with clarity. When you're anxious, you tend to read with fear, meaning you see warnings everywhere, even in neutral cards. When you're desperately hoping for a specific outcome, your interpretation bends toward what you want to hear. None of this makes the reading wrong exactly, but it does mean you need to be honest with yourself about your state before you begin. A simple check-in before every reading helps enormously. Take 3 slow breaths. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Am I calm enough to hear something I might not want to hear? If the answer is no, wait. Come back when you've had some distance. This is not a limitation. This is wisdom. The most experienced readers know this, and they take it seriously. Let's talk about something a lot of us have done and probably felt a little embarrassed about. Something is happening in your life, something uncertain and important, and every morning you pull a card about it, just to check, just to see if anything has changed. And what happens? The readings start contradicting each other. One day it looks positive, the next day uncertain. The day after that it looks like a warning. And instead of clarity, you now have 3 conflicting answers and more anxiety than you started with. Here's why this happens. Tarot reads the present moment, the energy as it exists right now. But if the situation genuinely hasn't changed, if no new decisions have been made, no new actions taken, no new information received, you're essentially asking the same question to the same moment over and over, and the cards can only give you what's there. Reading the same question repeatedly also sends a message, to yourself more than anything, that you don't trust the first answer, and that mistrust starts to color everything. What works much better is this. Ask once, write it down, sit with the answer for at least a few days. Let things move in real life. Then if something genuinely shifts, a conversation happens, a decision is made, circumstances change, you can check in again. Now you're asking about a new moment, and the reading will feel completely different because it actually is different. So how do you catch yourself in the moment before a reading that's not going to serve you? There are some signals that are pretty reliable once you know to look for them. The first one is a kind of frantic urgency around the reading. That feeling of needing the cards to give you a specific answer right now. That urgency is almost always a sign to step back rather than forward. The second is if you've already pulled cards about this topic recently and nothing in the situation has actually changed. Give it time. Let life catch up to the reading. The third is being in the middle of an emotional crisis, grieving, panicking, right in the middle of a conflict. In these moments, your interpretation will be clouded no matter how skilled you are. Wait until the first wave passes. Even a few hours can make a significant difference. And the fourth, and this one is the most honest, you already know the answer. You know what you need to do, or what you're feeling, or what the situation really is. But you're hoping the cards will say something different, or give you permission, or take the decision away from you. When that's what's happening, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is put the deck down and do the thing you already know you need to do. Tarot is a practice, and like any practice, it deepens when you understand not just how to use it, but when to use it and how to show up for it properly. Building a real connection with your deck takes time, consistency, and a little intention. And learning to recognize when the timing is right, when you're genuinely open and grounded and ready to hear something true. That's what separates a reading that actually changes something in you from one that just leaves you more confused than when you started. The good news is that none of this is complicated. It just takes presence. And that's something you can bring to every single reading, starting with the next one. Pick up your deck, take a breath, and trust the process.